It's a great day to talk hockey with Grant McCagg on HabsCast.
Welcome back, everybody. Hope you're having a fine lunch hour and hoping you can spend some of it with me here. I'm just waiting on the video to download. It's encoding. I had to do a little edit in with my video. I did an interview with longtime Ottawa area journalist Chris Stevenson this morning, and his camera hopped off at one point, so I had to edit that out, and just waiting for the thing to download. So bear with me. There might be, I find when I have to download these things after the live podcast to start, it'll jump up on the screen. So don't be alarmed if suddenly I disappear and there's another thing up on the screen. Not much I can do about it, but hey, Ottawa and Montreal both won last night, both in the playoffs today. Edmonton won too, so good news for the Canadian teams that are in the playoffs right now. Three. I hope it remains. We need at least three Canadian teams. I wish all of them were in it, to be honest with you. Even Toronto, yes, so they could lose in the first round again. But hey, the Senators have been on quite a run of late. Let's have a look at the standings here in the East, just to get an idea. It's the Senators are 8-2 in their last 10. So Montreal, after that little bit of a blip, they're actually 6-3-1 in their last 10. But if you look at there's 10 teams, I think, in the running. Philly last night losing. I think that ended there for them. They're 5 points out, and all these teams play each other. And I think they're just, they've got 3 games left with Detroit, but Detroit's in 10th now. It mattered when Detroit was still the 8th seed, but they're not anymore. Ottawa snuck up into it, and with their 8-2 record, it's the second best in the conference in their last 10. So even with those crazy injuries that they've been putting up with, they're now playing at a .599 clip for the year, and plus 23 goal differential. So despite the injuries, despite so-so goaltending up until the last month or two, the Senators are right there in the playoff spot today. And if the trend continues with how they're playing, they get Sanderson back. Looks like Shabbat's out for a while, but Sanderson's such a key, and they're playing such sound defensive hockey. I really think that they can hang in there and somehow find a way to clinch a playoff spot. But you look at Montreal, smack dab in the middle, where they've been pretty much over the last 2 months, really, for the most part. You see them they're more often than not, they're in 4th place in the conference, but it couldn't be any tighter. They've got a 1-point lead on Columbus, 2 points on Boston and Pittsburgh, 3 points on the Senators, Islanders, 4 points on the Red Wings. It's gonna come down, unfortunately, to the last game of the season for a lot of these teams. Hopefully not Montreal, but you just never know. You look at that, the home records, 13 losses. Surprisingly, Tampa hasn't been great at home either, but of the top 9 teams, Montreal's the only one with 13 losses at home, which you would think that Bell Center crowd, the wave, and the size, the biggest capacity arena in the league, and the fervor, the fans being just the best fans in the world, you would think that the Canadians would have a home record similar to their road record, but no, they've been better on the road. 8 losses is the best, is the fewest among all teams in the East Conference this year, only having lost 8 so far on the road. 6-3-1 in their last 10, plus 19 goal differential, which puts them fifth. So, they're right about where they should be as far as being in the standings, right in the middle of the top 8 pack for the Eastern Conference. And I think the odds now are up to 90%, if I'm not mistaken, of them making the playoffs now this year. So it's looking good, and looks like we're up to 72% and encoding the video. So be a few more minutes before I can post the Chris Stevenson interview, but that's all right. We've got lots to talk about here. The Canadians upcoming over the next starting tomorrow, busy schedule again. Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. 6 games. They'll have 6 games in like 8 or 9 days. So that condensed schedule keeps on. Well, every team's got to put up with it, but Montreal in particular here, it's there's no rest for the weary, that's for sure. Columbus, hey, absolutely red hot over the past since Rick Bowness took over the coaching reins. That'll be a tough one, but the Canadians have shown this year that they can beat. They beat Carolina the other night. Seems like they play better against the top teams than they do against bottom teams at times. I don't know what their record is overall when it comes to non-playoff teams versus playoff teams, but for whatever reasons, teams right at the top, they seem to do quite well this year for the most part. So I won't make a prediction one way or the other what will happen. I don't like to do that in the first place, but Montreal fully capable of winning that game, but it'll be tough. Predators, well, they're in a hell of a playoff race. They're in 8th now, so they'll be motivated, right? And that won't be an easy game. Then Carolina, they go on a bit of a, the home stand is done obviously tomorrow, and then they head out on the road. So Nashville, Carolina, Tampa, Rangers, Devils. So a 5-gamer. Again, you just don't know. You can try to predict all you want. By the way, that game on Sunday is at 5 p.m. So don't forget to, don't tune into your TV at 7 o'clock. You're halfway through the third period. That'll be tough back in Carolina. Carolina's tough to beat at home. Let's just look back at this here. 25-9-2 at home. That's 25 wins is the second most, is it, in the conference? Yeah, Boston has won 26. So Carolina's tough to beat at home. They get a knock. Oh, Carolina doesn't have great fans. Oh, no, they do. They've got a really good fan base there in Carolina. It's underrated, but not an easy team. Not an easy team to beat. Beat at home. So that won't be easy. Back to the schedule here. Lightning, again, tough one. If the Habs have any hopes of catching Tampa for the second spot, they'll need to win that one. And they'll need to have won at least 2 of the 3 going up to it, probably. And then what you consider to be easier games, Rangers and Devils. I don't know. What'll probably happen here, they'll get like 3 points against Carolina and Tampa, and then lose to the Rangers and lose in overtime to the Devils or something. It just seems like that's the there's I wouldn't want to be betting on what you think is the normal pattern, right? for the Habs right now. Like the games you expect them to win, they don't. The games you don't expect them to win, they seem to win. So, Mark says 12 points coming for the Habs. Go Habs, go! Yes, we had 30 some on here, and we're down to 15. I don't know, scared them off, I guess. Hi Grant, love your shows. Go Habs, go! Thank you, Melvin. I love that that I've got a new viewer on board here and took the time to leave a nice message. Thank you very much. We haven't got too many people tuning in yet. I guess hey, it's lunchtime and only so many people are available, and always tune in later, right? But it's I figured I'd get. Oh, that thing is still. Okay, I'll keep chatting here for a while. Go to a few more. I expect. Hey, a couple of days break here. Do they come back with Dobish tomorrow night? He's the starter now. I'll tell you, if it was like when Monty was the starter, and he had a good game like that, guess who was in nets the next night? It'd be him. So, usually I've been pretty good at predicting which goalie will be playing. But this one's a tough one. I think they might come back with Doby again. Like right now, he's in his last 6 games, 932 save percentage. Last 3, 923 or higher, and 952 save percentage last night. Saved 41 of 43 shots, and was incredible. So every game's kind of a must-win type situation right now. I think it's not like Dobish has played 50, 60 games this year, right? He's only played 30, 35 games. So I ride him. I ride Doby right now, and I'd be interested in knowing what your thoughts are on that. If you think that Dobish comes back in nets again. Edgley saying Monty, but for some reason he's laughing about that. I don't get the joke. Oh, okay, maybe I do. Little sarcasm there, perhaps. Edgley. Goaltending is trending in the exact direction in these final games. It's amazing what real competition does to individuals wanting to hold their positions. Healthy Dobish and Fowler tandem. Yeah, they're playing well. Absolutely. I do think, though, well, it is a back-to-back, right? They play the Preds. Saturday, Sunday, I think you come with Dobish, and then you play Dobish, one of the two in the back-to-back. I think probably is what, 2 out of the next 3, right? And then you take it from there. Would be what I think would is the way they'll be leading. Anything can happen with this team. Never seen anything like it. No, I get you, Chris. It's that's a good point. They are unpredictable, to say the least. Caulfield for the Rocket Richard Trophy? Could be. Chris and I had a good discussion about potential candidates here. There was a something from The Athletic came out, MVP candidates, and one of the 5 that they listed was Hutson. So Chris and I had a good little chat about that. Travis Green's been in, there's been some discussion lately about him perhaps being a Jack Adams finalist. We talk about that. We had a good conversation about both Hutson and Sanderson potentially for the Norris. Suzuki, Selke. So it's a good. We had a good chat, And Chris is always a great guest to have on. So as soon as that's downloaded, folks, I'll play it. This is a rare treat for me to be able to catch a noon show. Make it a good one, Grant. Ooh, pressure's on, eh? Let me just see here. You know what I could do? I do have a Kushkov video done. Since I'm waiting for this friggin' thing to load, why don't I show? Yeah, I'll do the video scouting report on Kushkov. Okay, so I looked at the con man the other day. He's been playing. Actually, his minutes are down a bit this year, and he went from being the captain to being assistant captain under the new coach, which is a little odd. He's also not playing a whole hell of a lot on the PK. He's got like triple the time on power play than the PK. 13th in defense scoring this year with, I believe it was 38 points. So had a jump in his offensive production, but I'm not sure that we've necessarily seen a progression in his defensive game. Turns 23 in December of next year. So let's have a look. Since this hasn't downloaded yet, let's have a look at Kushkov in 3 recent games. Some of those highlights. All right, this doesn't. Okay. He is playing on the right side. He's listed at 6 foot by a lot of, but he, a lot of times these databases add an inch, and you look at him out there, I'd say he's 5'11", 5'11 and a half at best, but probably 5'11. He's not the biggest guy out there. So, a lot of people wondering if he comes over. Being a right defenseman, right? Is he eventual replacement for Carrier? Seems to be. But I think, at 23, not coming over. He hasn't been over for anything, I don't think, has he? Doesn't show up at any of these camps. I'm just, I have a feeling he might be a Russian lifer, but, I imagine he makes a pretty good salary there. Is he going to want to come over and play? Is he going to want to come over and play in the AHL for like maybe less money? Here you can see he gets to the guy. He's got good mobility. I'll give him that. I don't mind his mobility. It's probably his greatest strength. He's a pretty good one-on-one defender, good stick. I think his game's all about his mobility. There, a guy kind of gets around him, but he still didn't let him get to the net. You don't see him getting walked too often. You know what I find with this? I was really struggling to find plays that, guys that were in front of the net and how he did in that regard. I've never noticed that he cleared guys out of the crease too much, but you know what? In this hockey, and you can see the wider rink, obviously, not a lot of guys stand in front of the net. It's a lot different game than the NHL game, and I think it's one of the reasons why, you don't see a lot of Russian defensemen making the jump, especially after they played in the KHL for a few years. There're just not that many, notable Russian defensemen that like ones that have recently come into the league, with the exception of the kid in Nashville, but he brings elite offensive ability that you don't see from Kushkov and Nikishin. Saw him last night. Uh, it's guys like Minchukov and Sergachev that come over, and play junior hockey and adapt to the North American game, and not very rare that you see um, defensemen that have played a few years in the KHL go and play in the NHL. It's not that common. And part of it, I think, is just the style of play. They don't. Here's one instance where the guy's in front of the net. And I mean, he competes, but he doesn't push guys out of the way. Like, he's not very big. And that was an example of him in front of the net. Apologies for the, was one of the reasons why I haven't done many KHL videos, and Kunishkov in particular, because these are not official KHL videos. They're taped from somebody in the stands from Instat or whatever. So, you don't even see the scoreboard in the corner. So, and there's no replays. So, not the best video, but you can still see the player. Is just further away, unfortunately, than what a camera usually is. These amateur cameramen don't have zoom, obviously, on their lens, but you can see here he utilizes his edges and his speed, mobility, agility to get away from defenders, to defend capably one-on-one, and with his mobility and his stick. It's not. It's certainly not from a physical standpoint. Like, he has. I looked up his stats. He has thrown 5 hits all season. So 4 minor penalties, and registered 5 hits in 473 minutes of ice time. So every 296 minutes of ice time, he throws a hit. That's for a defenseman. That's not safe to say. That's not very much. And he, he's definitely not a physical defender. By comparison, just Struble, for instance. Okay, it's every 294 minutes for Kushkov throwing a hit. Struble throws a hit every 10 minutes that he's on the ice. So, just as a comp, what do the Canadians need? Do they need another undersized, mobile, stick checking defenseman, especially on the right? No, they don't. So, will Kushkov want to leave his 20 plus minutes a night playing KHL, probably at a pretty decent salary, playing in his homeland, to come and play in the AHL for 2 or 3 years? I don't know. I think he'd have probably done it by now if he really, that was something that appealed to him. So time will tell, but now does he have, you got to think Reinbacher obviously is ahead of him. Pickford, maybe not ahead of him as far as being NHL ready right now, but certainly ahead of him on the depth chart when you look long term on the club. Do you replace, like, he might a little more mobile than Carrier, but a lot of similarities there, similar size, not a crease clearer, defends with his skating and his guile and stick. I would say Carrier is a little more physical. So, there's that. I mean, for a defense core that already needs size and physicality, more of a balance, I just don't know that you're going to see Kushkov getting, finding a spot on the roster. Like, I pointed out yesterday the every NHL defense corps that's won a Stanley Cup in the last 40 plus years, they're in and around 30 years of age average, sometimes higher. The Chicago a decade ago, their defense corps was 32 and a half years old on average. So the Canadians right now are 24.7. Reinbacher comes into the lineup and it's like 23.1, the average age, if he's replacing Carrier. But so, do you, they probably keep Carrier in the lineup just for experience standpoint. You get in Reinbacher for balance, okay. But if you're thinking, well, a couple of years from now, they'll bring in Kushkov to replace Carrier. Well, they're already much younger than any defense corps that's won a cup in recent years. Do they, replace a similar player with one that has no NHL experience? Like, it probably doesn't make sense that they'll go that route. And as far as I was looking at Florida's defense corps last year. Okay, the 6 that played regularly in the playoffs, 3,786 games of NHL experience going into the playoffs last year. That Chicago defense corps I was telling you about that averaged 32 and a half years of age, 4,903 games of NHL experience on that defense corps. Montreal this year going into the playoffs, once the regular season ends, if the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, if the 6 that are playing right now play every game the rest of the year, 2,122 games NHL experience. So basically half of what Florida had, and far less than half of Chicago's defense corps that won the cup a decade ago. So just to, realistically, I just don't see Kushkov having a spot. And there you see him again. It was showing him, he's good at, he utilizes his speed to stay between the forward and the net, and he's good at it. Like, he's a half decent defender because he's smart and mobile, but he's not adding size and strength and any physicality to a Montreal lineup that is going to need it down the stretch, as far as I'm concerned. We have 10 people in live chat. That's amazingly low. Okay, maybe the live lunch thing isn't going to catch on after all. Oh well, got to start doing it on a regular basis if I can, and hopefully people will get used to it. But yeah, here he is again. I tried to what I did here from 2 games was try to get a few instances where he was, guys kind of went to the front of the net, and just give you an idea here. He's all about contain. It's contain, not certainly not. He's not cross-checking guys in front of the net or moving them out. He just kind of, a bit like Hutson in that regard, right? And a bit like Carrier in that regard. Matheson even. Dobson. So do they need another contain defender? I don't think so. Now, does he get interest from other teams? Again, he may never leave Russia, so it's hard to say. It's hard to say if they'll, they'll look at that. Other teams, I don't know. I have a hard time believing that he's got a lot of trade value elsewhere in the league. There, finally got it downloaded. So we'll get to that in a minute. But um, as I say, I'm not overly excited. I find him a little vanilla. You know, if he was 6'1", could move like that, or 6'2", played the body, then I'd say, okay, great. That's a potential guy for Montreal's top six at some point, but I just don't see the fit with the Canadians. And hey, he was drafted outside of the top 100, so you know, he's not supposed to make the team anyway, right? Reinbacher and Pickford are supposed to be ahead of him on the depth chart, so it's not a shock that they are. And Pickford being an early third round pick, Reinbacher being a top 5 pick, those guys are supposed to be better than him, and they are. So anyway, that's a look at here he is again in front of the net and just kind of standing there with the guy. He's not gonna 4 minor penalties all year. And again, for a defenseman, that's a sign that he doesn't get his nose dirty too often. So you can probably tell I'm not crazy excited about Kushkov, but yeah. What's this? I'd sing and dance for you, Grant, to get people in, but nobody needs that in their life. No. Well, I could try singing, but I don't know that we're down to 6. Okay, what's going on here? I've never seen it so low. Okay. Well, you 6 that are on here, hit that like button. A lot of Chris Stevenson fans here. All right. Well, I'm going to do I'm going to do Chris's interview here now. It's a great one. I hope you enjoy it. I hope a few people show up here as it goes along, and yeah, enjoy. It's a good one.
Grant McCagg on HabsCast.
Always a great day when I'm joined by CJ, Mr. Chris Stevenson from Ottawa Media. I don't know what you got, so many titles. Just say Stevenson Media. How's that?
There you go. Perfect. Always great to hear Dick Irvin's voice too.
Oh, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially him saying my name. I mean,
there you go.
The only time he's ever said my name, that's for sure. It's at 93 years of age too. I hope my voice sounds it's so iconic, right? You recognize it at 93.
Yeah.
You know who it is, right?
Absolutely.
He just recently turned 94, Mr. Dick Irvin, but we grew up with that voice there, Chris, right? You being a Montreal native and all.
Yep. Would tuck the transistor radio underneath the pillow when I went to bed when they were on the West Coast, and would that was always a treat when I was a kid growing up in Montreal to listen to Dick and him saying, that the Canadians are skating from left to right on your radio dial, and listen to them playing back then it would have been just playing the Kings out on the West Coast, or if they were in Vancouver. But that was always a great way to go to sleep as a kid, was with the the radio under the pillow, listening to Dick call the Habs games.
I did the exact same thing, Chris, because Mom, if she knew, would not be happy. Right. So I had to keep it under the pillow, right? So they didn't know. And I always was bound and determined to listen to the whole game. And by the second intermission, that I never made it past the second intermission. I'd fall asleep. And then you'd wake up because the station wouldn't be on all night. And you'd wake up to the hiss of the radio station.
I mean, a lot of your younger listeners, if you have any, Grant, they're all guys like us. Yeah, I remember those days when, midnight, the TV would shut down, and all you'd get would be the test pattern and the whining
Indian.
whining sound. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we called him Indian back then, but the indigenous fella that would be on the screen.
Yes, with the full headdress, which was all part of the test pattern that they would put up on they'd put up on the TV screen in the off hours. Yeah.
Yeah, those were the days, but the
And
radio
then
wouldn't be on.
I mean, it was a thrill for me, because then my first daily newspaper job was with the Ottawa Sun, covering the Canadians. 88, 89 would have been my first season. Pat Burns' first year coaching the Habs,
Right.
and then of course, got to work alongside and travel with Dick Irvin and Red Fisher, like two of the guys that I followed as a kid growing up. What a thrill to wind up working alongside them and do some hits on the radio with Dick when I was on the road with the Canadians. So yeah, that was a thrill, and it was great to hear his voice there.
Yeah. Was it the Sun by then, or was it still the Sunday Herald? Or
no, it was the Sun. Yeah, it was the Ottawa Sun.
Probably the year after, right? It
Yeah.
started out as the Sunday Herald and kind of grew from there.
Yeah.
I remember Bruce Garriock was a classmate of mine, and
Okay.
he actually second year of journalism, he got on with the Sunday Herald, right? And he was working with them at that point.
Bruce came in and worked for me. I was the sports editor at the Herald, and I had been just freelancing as a writer, and then we used to call them the agate shifts, right? You do the scoreboard pages. Nobody has scoreboard pages anymore, but with all the the standings and everything else, and we would run all the standings of the local leagues, and then when the sports editor's job came open, they promoted me to sports editor, and Bruce came in and started doing what I had been doing. So yeah, that's where we both we both really got our start, and then
cut your teeth.
Yeah, and then the Herald became the Herald got bought by Toronto Sun and became the Ottawa Sun.
Yeah. Well, good memories back then.
People weren't tuning in and getting a history lesson on Ottawa media.
Yeah. We lost half the audience already. Well, let's get to it here. Well, obviously, the Canadian teams won last night that are fighting for a playoff spot. Edmonton won, Ottawa won, Montreal won. Senators finally got up into that 8th playoff spot at the tenuous hold on the 8th spot. Looked like they had to go 14-4 when there was 18 games left or something like that. So far, so good. I think with so many teams playing against each other in the East, that maybe it's not going to take 100 points after all to get in. It might be 98, 99. And so then 13-5 is a little more doable, you would think. But so far, I mean, the way they're going, they may well finish the season like that. 5 defensemen out. Was it
incredible?
Yeah. Detroit got Kachuk, or they got Detroit got Yakimchuk last night. That kid's first NHL game, goal and an assist. Actually, you could probably say they got chucked. They got chucked out of the playoffs because Brady had a goal and an assist, and Yakimchuk had a goal and an assist. Yeah. And I always love it when a kid makes his debut. The parents show up, the brothers, the family shows up, and they score a goal. It's just, and then you see it pans to them in the crowd, and they're just ecstatic. And what a thrill for him! What a thrill for the family. Yeah, and at one point, I think I posted something on X last night, like who's writing this story? Like the whole run for the Senators right now. Not having your top guy, and then having your second best guy get knocked out of the lineup, and remains to be seen how long
Shabbat's going to be out with that forearm injury from the cross check from JT Miller. But then to have,
well, I thought
Yakimchuk gets, the headlines today, and rightly so. But to me, it's been Tyler Clevin stepping up and sucking up all those minutes. I mean, he led them last night. He played 28-11 last night. Tyler Clevin, who, started out the year on your third pair, and plays 28-11 last night and does a pretty good job of it. And I think, the reason they've been able to cope, not having Sanderson, not having Shabbat, not having Jensen, arguably, three of your top four, is because of the system that they've really, really grabbed onto this year. Travis Green's done a great job of getting them all on the same page and getting them to buy in. And, when you're only giving up 22 or 23 shots a game, 10 against the Rangers on Monday night, the insulation for that blue line is pretty good. It's not just guys on the blue line stepping up like, Clevin and Matt and Paolo and Jordan Spence has been really, really good as well.
Yeah.
But it's, the five man approach that they've been taking, especially in their own end. And
next man up.
Their group of forwards. I'm interested to know what you think. I think right now their group of forwards from 1 to 12 might be the deepest in the league in the way that they're playing right now. When you've got Foegele, Eller, and Zetterlund,
fourth line,
two guys who scored 20 goals. A couple of years ago, Zetterlund had 20 something with San Jose before he got traded to Ottawa. Foegele had 24 last year for LA, and Lars Eller is one of the best veteran kind of fourth line centers in the league now. So you got two guys who can score. Fogel's got 5 goals since he came over at the trade deadline, and I just think from 1 to 12 when you have your first line. Anchored by Tim Stützle, and then you go down to that fourth line that's scoring goals and preventing goals from the other team as well. That group of forwards is so strong, and they stick to the system so well. That, to me, that's been the biggest reason why they've been able to overcome the loss of Sanderson, who could I think be back this weekend or maybe next Tuesday. But I don't know. It doesn't sound good for Shabbat. But just the way they've played collectively and the depth of that forward group has been the reason why that, they wake up this morning and they find themselves in a playoff spot for the first time since November.
Well, I mean, Montreal's fourth line, Gallagher, Deneau, Anderson, I guess, you could also say that in the last couple of years, they've all had 20-goal seasons too. So both those teams have solid fourth lines now. And it's an important component. Like, you need that. Right? And
compressed schedule and playing, as many back-to-backs. I think Ottawa had 3 or 4 back-to-backs coming out of the Olympic break, and that's such a luxury for a coach if he's able to play 4 lines, and especially on the road right now. I mean, that third line's outstanding as well. I mean, Cousins, Pinto, Amadio, they put up against the other team's top line night after night. And Green's in that nice sweet spot where most coaches would like to be, and that's when you're on the road. You don't have to worry about matchups. I mean, I'm sure he's got complete confidence no matter which line that he's got out there on the road. The other team's coach can throw his top line out against any of those guys, and Green can be relatively confident that they're going to be able to handle themselves against that line.
Yeah. And, I thought Ole Yeller was a sad story. You were talking about stories, but that Lassie comes home and gets injured in his first friggin' game. And this was his chance to, this was his opportunity. And I really feel for him. Like, sounds like he's out for the year. Like, I guess hamstring or something. It looked like it
Yeah,
was something.
I got the legs tangled up. I don't know if it was a hamstring. I don't know if it was an ankle sprain, but
Wow.
he did not look good coming off the ice. I mean, his night
No,
lasted just over 4 minutes, I think. And
crazy.
you're right. He had been over here, played in Belleville, went back, played a year in Europe, decided to come back again this year, and I think might have been leading American Hockey League defenseman in goals this year. Yeah, it just looked like he was poised finally to maybe make that step, and here was his opportunity to kind of make his case that he deserved to be at least a sixth or seventh defenseman with Ottawa, and then to have that happen. And it's just another horror story on their blue line that even the guys that they're bringing in to try and replace the frontline guys who have been hurt, they've been hurt as well. So it's just
Gilbert.
It's crazy. Gilbert, Gilbert, I thought had come in and kind of a journeyman minor leaguer, a depth guy. And I thought he had come in, and again, I think it's a credit to the system. But he had come in, and I thought he was really, really solid. Well, he didn't try to do anything of which he was not capable. And he kept his game simple, and he plays with a little bit of an edge. And then he got hit and knocked out against Toronto. So yeah, it's just been one thing after another. And the only thing that's been consistent has been that they win.
Well, there has recently been talk, and we'll talk a bit about perhaps for trophy candidates for the Canadians and the Senators here, perhaps. There has been talk that Travis Green would be in, a consideration for the finalists for the Jack Adams. And I mean, on the surface, you look at it and say, well, they were 7th last year and they're probably going to be 7th or 8th this year. How can you make him a finalist? But when you consider the goaltending, the inconsistent goaltending that they managed to trudge through, all their injuries to the defense, just the difference in the defensive system from when DJ Smith was there to what we see a year and a half later or 2 years later, like it's just night and day difference, this club, as far as their defensive structure goes. And that's in less than 2 years of guidance from Green. He deserves a lot of credit. And do you think be in a finalist for the Jack Adams Award?
I mean, he has to be part of the conversation when you look at just about every defensive metric right now. Ottawa's either first or second in the league. Shots suppression, expected goals against. I mean, pick your slot shots. Pick your category, and Ottawa's right near the top of the list in just about every category. So I think he certainly has to be a part of the conversation. I feel like it's going to be tough to get by the likes of a Rick Bowness, even though he didn't coach the whole year. What he's done with Columbus coming in and making them into a playoff team. I always feel like this is the case with the Jack Adams as well. Is like some of those guys who coach good teams and help those good teams be consistently great. John Cooper. How does John Cooper not get more consideration? I mean,
I know.
And everybody will say, well, he's got a great team. Okay, but it's important that year after year you find a way to keep getting your message through, and you keep having the teams play to a really high standard. I mean, I don't know how you better describe a coach of the year than a guy like John Cooper, who year after year just keeps delivering excellence with the Lightning. And it always seems like the I don't know what you think, but it always just seems like the guy who seems to get the most consideration is the one who took a team that nobody really expected to be good and maybe help them battle for a playoff spot, and they slip into the playoffs. Like maybe, Travis Green last year with the Senators, finally making the playoffs after 8 years. But I think there's something to be said for those guys that have good or great teams and have them deliver on what's expected
Absolutely.
of them. Like there's huge expectations on them. Marty St. Louis should be get consideration this year. When you look at the progression of a bunch of those young players on that team, that Suzuki now has become a real premier two-way forward in the National Hockey League, who I think should be getting some consideration for the Selke this year. And Cole Caulfield might win himself a Richard Trophy. I mean, guys on the kids on the blue line. I mean, you look at how all of those kids have progressed under Marty St. Louis, and to me, he needs to be getting consideration for the job that he's done. There's no shortage of candidates this year. I mean, Lindy Ruff, I
was just going to say, Lindy Ruff.
The Sabres missing the playoffs for 14 years and now fighting for first place in the division and first place in the conference.
You talk about Travis Green getting the Senators in the playoffs for the first time in 8 years. Well, Lindy Ruff getting Buffalo in for the first time in 16 years. Yeah. And especially after the start to their season, right? Yeah. The new GM comes in, doesn't really tweak it that much. And, they've turned it. They have the best record, their last 42 games since Detroit in 95 when they set those records with their 42 game stretch. They've lost 6 games. It's just absolutely incredible. Lindy probably would be my favorite right now, probably to win, because like you say, Bonus hasn't quite played enough, or coached enough maybe. Games. Yep. But those two would be my favorites right now. And it's amazing that John Cooper has never won. And neither has Paul Maurice, I don't believe. Neither of them have won the Jack Adams Award. But you touched on Suzuki. The Selke Trophy. What I find, Chris, is every year, like it seems like you kind of know ahead of time which guys are gaining momentum. Like you hear a buzz a few years back. Well, Patrice Bergeron, then all of a sudden he'd be a perennial winner. Then you heard it like the year before Barkov, but then the buzz that you hear around, then he's the perennial. He's in the, and now this year, the buzz that you hear around is Suzuki. So I expect him to be at the very least a finalist this year for the Selke. Right. And typically when you hear this buzz, that's the guy that ends up winning it. I think that perhaps Nick Suzuki is going to win the Selke Trophy this year.
Yeah, well, with Bergeron retired and Barkov not playing this year, you're absolutely right. It is a reputation trophy. And in a lot of cases, I think it's gotten, I think with the advanced stats and the analytics now, it has become a little bit easier to really look and see guys who have a big impact on the game defensively. But a lot of it's just been, the eyeball test and having watched, every game that the Senators play, I feel like Shane Pinto's another one of those players that
absolutely.
The conversation needs to start around them. And you're exactly right. It's like people start talking about them and then you kind of have the reputation. And then it's like being the heavyweight champ. You got to knock the heavyweight champ out to take his title. You're not getting it on a decision. And I think it is going to be really interesting this year with, the two heavyweights who had won just about every Selke for the last 10 years in Bergeron and Barkov not being a part of the mix. And yes, there's been conversation around Suzuki. I think there should be conversation around Shane Pinto. He had a stretch earlier this year where I think they played Vegas, they played Colorado, they played Pittsburgh. He went up against Eichel, McKinnon, Crosby. I feel like those guys might have had one goal between them in that stretch. I wish I wrote a little piece about it. I wish I had the numbers in front of me, but the job that he did and that line did, in going in that little stretch of 3 or 4 games against the premier centers in the National Hockey League. To me, that's the kind of buzz that gets created around a player, to your point, where you start saying, well, this guy should be considered. But
Yes.
it feels like those guys almost need to pay their dues for a couple of years before they get the
Yeah.
tap on the shoulder that they're a legitimate candidate. But I would say this year, with Bergeron and Barkov being out of the picture, that Suzuki will get real consideration. And at this point, I'd be quite surprised if he isn't a finalist this year.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Like, I thought he should have been a finalist last year, and he played more on the penalty kill. He hasn't played a lot on the penalty kill this year. Actually, Kapanen's kind of been replacing him on the PK. And typically, the guy that wins the Selke is a regular penalty killer, right?
Right.
But, I don't know if that will ultimately hurt him when it comes to it, but I still think, but going by the buzz, he's almost a shoe-in to be a finalist, and whether he wins it or not, another story. This came up, Athletics MVP rankings, that McKinnon #1, Kucherov #2, who's had it seems like at the end of the season every year he just goes nuts with the points. McDavid #3, Lane Hutson #4, Moritz Seider #5. Okay. So in looking at this list here, now you've got Hutson was a bit of a surprise for me that he would be on this list, but who would your 5 be if you, off the top of your head here, if you can come up with an answer, the 5 that you would consider to be the best candidates at this point for the Hart?
Yeah, I don't have a problem. I always feel like once you get down to 4 and 5, you could debate the 4 and 5 slots with till you're blue in the face. There's going to be a lot of candidates.
So you think
I
those
used to vote on
the top 3?
Yeah, I think it's going to come from those. Feels like it's going to come from those top 3.
Okay.
I just, at this point, I really feel like, again, I don't know if it's a Tampa Bay Lightning thing or whatever. I just don't feel like Kucherov gets the love that he probably deserves. And, the default position always seems to be McKinnon and McDavid. And I get it. They're brilliant players. They're breathtaking to watch. They put up the numbers. But, and again, I think sometimes when the races are close, I do feel like sometimes when there's not much to choose between the candidates, sometimes it can be a little bit of a legacy award where you look at it and that the separating factor can be, well, this guy's been so close and been really good for, the last 4 or 5 years and just hasn't quite got to the top of the pile. Maybe this is the year for a Kucherov. Like he, as the faces and the names have changed on the Lightning, he's been like the most consistent guy that's helped them stay at the top of the standings year after year. Him and Vasilevsky, it feels like, and Hedman, I guess, to a certain extent, although Hedman's, play has fallen off because he's kind of been physically challenged over the last little bit. I don't know if he has the same kind of impact that he used to. But again, when you look at the Lightning and you talk about why they've been as good as they've been for as long as they've been, Kucherov is right there. I feel like this might be the year that Kucherov gets a little bit more recognition for what he's done. But again, when you look at like the Hudson's candidacy, when that comes up, I look at the Habs and I think you could argue even just with among the Montreal Canadiens themselves, is he the most valuable player on the Habs?
That's my argument.
Some people would say that Suzuki is, and some others would be like Caulfield is the most valuable guy they've got because he's got 44 goals. So I feel like there would be a little bit of a debate even within the Montreal Canadiens universe in terms of who really is the most valuable player on their team. I mean, you're closer to the Habs situation right now than I am, but is that not a legitimate point that Hutson might not even be the MVP on the Habs right now?
Well, you're echoing what I said on my podcast last night. Exactly. I think maybe Suzuki's probably been the most valuable player. So if he's not even your team MVP, how could he be one of the two guys that I would have in there and seriously consideration for the top three for me would be Celebrini, who has 8 more points than double the point totals of the next guy on his team.
Yeah.
If they make the playoffs, when you talk about most valuable player, like it's still like if it's McDavid, McKinnon, and Kucherov, it's still kind of coming down to best player, not really, MVP necessarily, because I mean, McDavid has Draisaitl, Kucherov, he has 46 more points than the next guy, so you could argue, certainly MVP of his team. Although I really like Hagel and Point and Gensel. These are good players. And
there's a good supporting cast there. Yeah,
I still consider Hedman one of the best defensemen in the league, and Vasilevsky maybe the best goalie. So but Werenski too. In what he's doing, he leads by 18 points. And he's a defenseman. He's got the scoring lead he's kind of helped, like they've climbed into they weren't expected to make the playoffs, and it looks like they're going to make it for sure. 18-point lead on the next best scorer on their team. For me, Celebrini and Werenski, serious candidates to be finalists this year. It was up to me.
Well, I always felt like, although we've seen defensemen, who's the last defenseman to win the Hart? I think was it Pronger? Anyway, I always felt that there was a little bit of a bias towards voting for goaltenders and for
forwards,
defensemen for the Hart, because the feeling was, well, they've got their own trophies, right? There's the Vezina for the goalies, and they've got the Norris Trophy, which kind of recognizes the best defenseman and recognizes the best goaltender. I always felt that they had those two positions, they had to go above and be absolutely beyond to be in the Hart Trophy conversation. When you think of like what Hasek did for Buffalo, kind of singularly responsible for the Sabres being as competitive as they were in the late 90s. So
was Pronger the last one?
Pardon?
Pronger, did you say? I think that's who comes to mind for me, but
that's what came to mind for me. I'm not sure. I don't have the list in front of me right now, but it just seems like it's tough for take a look. It's tough for I just feel like it's tough for those two positions because people seem to feel like they've already got their own trophies. And the other thing, and you mentioned this, and it applies to Celebrini, and that idea that, well, if they make the playoffs, then he should be considered for the Hart Trophy as his team's most valuable player. Well, my attitude would be, if they miss the playoffs by a point, by 1 point, that's gonna disqualify him from either you're most valuable to your team or you're not. And to me, that whole idea that, well, we'll give him consideration if he manages to get his team into the playoffs. I always felt like, well, if you missed by 1 or 2 points and the team wasn't even expected to really be a playoff contender and you came up just short, the guy is either an MVP candidate or he's not. And to me, if you want to argue helping your team make the playoffs is part of that discussion and is more of a credit to his resume when it comes to the discussion, okay. But I don't think it should kill his chances if they wind up missing the playoffs by a point or two.
No, I agree.
What he's done, and I love that stat somebody came up with the other day, Grant, that he's the only guy who doesn't have another point. I think it was a point a game player around him to help. Like, he's just so clearly the best player right now for San Jose that he has to be in the discussion. But again, I feel like it's almost another one of those reputation trophies where if you're going to base it on your team's results, I don't know, is McDavid in that conversation where You know, the Oilers, as he himself put it, are involved in that pillow fight in the Pacific Division to see who's gonna win that division.
Yeah.
He hasn't taken his team to a new level this year. So
No.
Right now, my feeling is I like Kucherov's chances. I like what Kucherov has done, and I think he's going to be right there in the conversation. And I think Celebrini should get consideration whether they make the playoffs or not. Like they've had such a remarkable season and taken such big strides this year that sure, if they make the playoffs, it makes it an even better story. But if they come up just short, that shouldn't kibosh his chances of being the Hart Trophy winner.
No, I agree. I make the qualifier based mostly on. Personally, I think he's a candidate whether they make it or not, but he won't be considered, I don't think, by the writers if they don't make the playoffs, because there is that bias towards, oh, you've got to be a playoff team.
Yeah, even I don't get
that. I don't think there's a pundit that picked San Jose not to finish like last or second last in the league this year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 46 points is what Will Smith has, and he's got 94.
Wow.
Like that's just, I don't know that I've ever seen that. And also a defenseman leading by 18 points over the next guy for Werenski. Quickly here, I know you got to get going. Speaking of Werenski, Sanderson has to be in the consideration too to be a finalist for the Hutson. Obviously, if they're saying he's a top 5 Hart, I guess he's in the discussion. And Makar, obviously, it would, because of reputation again. Lidstrom won it like every year for how long, and he'll be a favorite. He'll probably be a finalist. But who would be your 3 finalists if you were to vote today for the Norris?
Yeah, it feels like right now, I mean, Makar, again, by reputation. Werenski, just as you stated, what he's doing for Columbus. And again, I think, his boat gets raised a little bit by the rising tide of the Blue Jackets and what they've been capable of doing. And I think the discussion needs to be there about Sanderson and Hutson too, being in the top 5. I mean, the voters get to put 5 names on the ballot. The Hutson and Sanderson situations are an interesting case, because I guess you'd make the argument maybe in Sanderson's case that he needed to provide more offense to be, right up there in the discussion with the rest of the candidates, because he's so good defensively. And gets the assignment of playing against the other team's, top players night after night. And Hutson, you could almost flip it around and say, well, he's got the offensive part of the resume. Is he good enough defensively to be considered, the best all-around defenseman in the NHL? And it comes to me, when I was voting on the Norris Awards as well, to your point about the Selke and killing penalties, to me, that one of the guys, for a guy to be one of my candidates, he had to kill penalties. He had to be a D-man that was part of the penalty killing unit on his team, because the award is supposed to be for the best all-round defenseman, and to me that's an important consideration. So it's not just a case of like ticking off the names of the top 5 guys, the top 5 scorers among defensemen, and saying, oh well, they're your Norris candidates. To me, it's got to be that blend. And maybe at this point, what hurts Sanderson and Hudson's candidacies at this point is that maybe you'd like to see a little bit more offense from a Sanderson, and you'd like to see a little bit more defense from a Hutson to be in the same conversation with, say, a Makar or a Werenski at this point.
I would suspect Quinn Hughes will be the 3rd guy.
Yeah,
it'll be Hughes, and again, reputation to a certain degree, right? Yeah. He puts up the points every year. I would argue, like, I don't think he's great defensively. He's decent, but I wouldn't put him in a Hedman or a Heiskanen. Like if I were to, you ask me, you want a defenseman to win a Game 7 in a playoff, and you got pick
Right.
one guy.
Yeah.
It's Hedman or Heiskanen for me, and Sanderson would be in that conversation. Josh Morrissey, Makar, but those kind of guys would be who I want to win a really important playoff game. Still to this day, maybe Hedman backed off a little bit, but
Yeah.
Hedman and Heiskanen to me are the guys that I want, and Sanderson is quickly joining.
Yeah.
Soon going to be joining that conversation.
It goes back to the all round player and the skill set at both ends of the rink. You want them to be able to defend against the best players on the other team, but you also want them to be that offensive threat when they get that opportunity. And I mean the guys you just described there fit that description.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Chris. Well, I know you got to get rolling. I appreciate, as always, you coming on. Let's try to get you on more than once a month here down the stretch, especially when Ottawa and Montreal are in the playoffs, right? We'll have
man, it's it's going to be such an interesting potential set of playoff matchups when you think about it. I mean, it's not out of the question that we could see, Buffalo play the Habs or Buffalo play the Senators. And I think just Buffalo being back in the mix, that building is going to be bumping in Buffalo. They've suffered for so long. And the potential for some really interesting matchups down the stretch. Doesn't feel at this point that a Montreal-Ottawa matchup could be possible, but we can always hope.
Yeah. Well, did you see any of that crazy Tampa Buffalo game?
Yes.
I haven't heard a building that loud in the regular season, and I don't know how long. Buffalo was just rocking. So it'll be great to see them back in the playoffs, and kind of a local up the 401 type thing. They're not that far away, so it'd be nice to renew that Buffalo Montreal rivalry or Buffalo Ottawa rivalry, and then hopefully somehow Montreal Ottawa play in the second round. That would be
that'd be fun.
That'd be pretty sweet. Okay, Chris, thanks as always, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me, Grant.
CJ, Chris Stevenson, great guy. I'm lucky, fortunate that all of my guests that are regulars are just first and foremost superior human beings, and Chris is great people. Sanderson, I really do. I love Sanderson. He's such a good player. The Senators had a transformational draft, is what they did when they got Stützle, Gregg, and Sanderson in the first round. And Montreal, you can say the same thing about the Slav draft, getting Hutson and Slav, like those. Teams that go on and have some success over an extended period of time, invariably you can always point back to at least one draft where you say, okay, this, you have to get key pieces in the draft, because other teams aren't going to trade you 4 or 5 of them. You might luck out and be able to trade for a Suzuki, but of course they had to give back a guy that was drafted in the first round in Pacioretty to get him. So it all goes back to the draft, and it's one of the reasons why, for me, the NHL draft has always been such an important part of my life, because it's such an important piece in building a winning hockey team. You've got to, at some point or another, draft future stars, and Montreal, obviously, in getting Slav and Hutson in the same draft is something that really go a long way towards turning the fortunes of this franchise around. And then, of course, a couple of years later, having Demidov fall to them at 5. Reinbacher, I think we'll see down the road here, was a hell of a pick too. Fowler in nets, getting him as well in the Reinbacher draft. So, and you can name a few others, right? But definitely getting Cole Caulfield at 16th overall. Pretty important piece there. Like the Canadians are not in a playoff position if they don't have Cole Caulfield, Mr. Clutch, Mr. Saturday Night, Mr. Every Night, as commentator said last night. It's not just Saturday night with Cole. When you're second in the league in goal scoring, it's Mr. Every Night. I liked that saying here. Somebody mentioning the possibility of would switching Newhook and Anderson help Demi and Cappy? Seems like that line is lacking physicality. Yeah, I mean those guys compete. Demi's pretty like he's not a bruiser per se, but he friggin' forechecks hard. Cappy certainly does the same thing. I don't know, if you're looking kind of for a second line, does Anderson bring the qualities that you want? Like I get the part with the the banging and crashing thing, but I would be considering, like, my answer to that is Hage is who I'm looking for. And yeah, come playoff time, they may not play a whole hell of a lot, but doesn't matter who's on that line. They're probably not going to play more than Evans, and the veterans will get lots of ice time. What we've been seeing lately is the bottom 3 lines basically all get the same ice time, and regardless of who's on that with Demi and Cap, and then I think come playoff time, that's probably what you're going to see. Those guys getting similar minutes to the vets, because clearly what we see at the end of hockey games is that Marty goes with the vets, and so at playoff time he'll be relying heavily on his veterans. There's no doubt about it, regardless of who's playing with them. But I'd like, for now, maybe get Anderson up with him. I mean, he doesn't create a whole hell of a lot of offense, but maybe if he's playing with those two, maybe he can bury a few more than he has in the recent years. He's certainly not going to set them up for a lot of goals, I don't think. It's a consideration. That's the problem. Like, and one of the things, presumably, that Kent was searching for at the trade deadline was maybe somebody that could play in the top 6 and round it out, because it looks like there's 5 pieces here right now, and needs to be 6. We're up to 20. We're up to 20 viewing here. Quality over quantity, Grant. Yeah, well, hopefully the quantity starts to catch up. Oh, geez, 23 now. Good to see that a few people are tuning in now. Seems like they wait till I'm answering the questions, going to live chat, and then all of a sudden because maybe their questions will get answered. Hey, whatever it takes, man. Come on down. Join us. Mr. Paul. I see a little bit of yellow action happening here. $10 from Paul. Thank you, my friend. Do I have to I'm going to file my income tax. Do I have to claim that or what? Don't have to worry about that for another year, right? Oh, I got my tires, summer tires on today. Oil change. And, my mechanic informed me that I need a $2,200 muffler job. I don't know that my car is worth much more than that now, so I think we might just keep going. Just keep turning the music up a little louder for now. It's not that loud anyway. So thank you for the contribution towards my muffler job. I only need 220 more of those, and I'll be able to get my muffler fixed. Thanks, Paul. Newspapers, what's that? Yeah, I know, eh? The Sens are playing like the Habs did at the end of the season. Yes. Do I ever miss the fun opening up a newspaper and find out what happened the night before? Yeah. Now you can actually just watch the game, but no, I hear you. Chris and I are both newspaper men. Yes, that wasn't clickbait, Jeff. I don't try to get too there's a method behind my clickbait madness. Yeah, I want people to tune in, and clearly it didn't work because nobody's tuning in. But maybe they thought, oh, clickbait, like you did, Jeff. But no, the Athletic, like I say, they did a list. They did a list, and they had Hutson fourth overall, and both. Well, I said it last night on the podcast, and then CJ said the exact same thing. Like, I don't even know if he's the MVP of his own team, let alone one of the top 5 MVP candidates in the league. So, that being the case, it makes it hard to justify him being one of the 4 leading candidates. Mind you, I think McDavid's won it years before when, you could almost argue that Draisaitl was as good or close to it. So it's not always cut and dried, right? But and yes, Francois, I mean, there's no one to interject, right? Yes, you did say the other day, Kucherov, and I did want to say something to Chris about it, but he kept rambling on for about 10 minutes, and then another thing came up that I want to talk about instead of going back from what he'd said 10 minutes earlier about Kucherov, because no, I the whole time I'm thinking, oof, no, I would not. I would not vote for Kucherov. I wish I had a vote, just so I wouldn't even have him in my top 3. But the son of a bitch, he probably deserves it. I hate to say it, but like, he's got 46 more points than the next guy on his team. That's pretty good. Yeah. Page loves to throw the body. I'm excited for his arrival. Hope his game translates quickly. Yeah. Jeff saying Hart is awarded to player who's most valuable to his team. So Hutson does deserve it. There should be 32 Harts given out each season. Well, the thing is, I don't know that he is the most valuable on his team. Like, I mean, what Nick's doing is, and he comes through in the clutch. Like, how many times has Nick, put the team on his back when it counted? And then Cole with his big goals. Like, there's 3 for me in Montreal that you can argue, and Sloth's not far behind. And even Dobish is close. Like, frig, 70. He's won 71% of his games. Like, he's been a really valuable piece too. So that's why, I don't know. Has there been anyone more valuable than Werenski? You can make that, Celebrini, the two of them. I don't know. I honestly, this year I'd be looking at those two guys, but I realize I look at it a little differently, maybe. Suzuki wins the Selke. 5-on-5 is more important than PK. Well, yeah. Most of the game is played 5-on-5, but if you are considered the best defensive player in the league and you don't play shorthanded, there's that doesn't really make sense. And it's not, I don't disagree that 5-on-5 is more pertinent, but if you're not playing shorthanded, how can you be considered the best defensive player in the league? It's, it just kind of like checks off the final box type thing, right? Pickford continues to develop. He can be scary. A D-man who scores goals. Too early to tell if it can translate. Yeah. Smaller version of Sheldon Sore. Yeah, Schaefer he'll hit 30 goals some year. He might hit 40. Kid's a freak. Absolute freak. Yeah, he is sharing MVP duties. And as far as, if the Leafs called tomorrow offering you the head scouting position, I mean, come on. There would be a revolt in Toronto. All the Leaf fans that hate me. The ticket sales would go down 1,000. They'd have 1,000 cancellations for ticket sales. Because I don't love Austin Matthews. I had the audacity to say it publicly. Yes, you would stop being a fan, obviously. Tommy Blyle. I love Tommy Blyle. I've got him in the first round. I have him top 20. So I saw a list there 50s, 55. No way. Kid's legit. He's good. I've got him first round all day, and I know scouts too that are on board. Just what you see in public lists sometimes, there's an example of it. Don't go by what you're seeing in public lists as what NHL teams are seeing. Trust me, they like Blyle more than the public lists. It'd be hard to vote against Werenski for the Norris right now. Columbus would not be in the position they're in without him. I think Werenski's got to win I have him as a final 3 for the Hart, so yeah. He gets my vote for the Norris this year. It's incredible year. I liked him a lot in his draft year too. Saw like his friggin' shot from the point, that wrist shot got through every time. Batherson is good. Yeah. Sen's got a deep quality at the top and quality all 4 lines. They've got a great defensive group. Absolutely. It's hard to give the Hart to defenseman because if he's that good, he'd automatically win the Norris. Yeah, well, there is Art Ross for the, top scorer and Ted Lindsay, best player. So it's not like a forward can't win other trophies too, right? Lafleur won Art Ross and Ted Lindsay award. The Lester B. Pearson Award is what it was called back in the day, some years. So then he, 1 year, he also won the Conn Smythe and the Hart, so, and the Stanley Cup. So nice lineup. Bobby Orr, the 1 year too, he won the Conn Smythe, the Hart, the Norris, you know, the Lester B. Pearson. Yeah. Or was something else. Dobish, 5th round, 136 overall. Great pick by Trevor Timmons and Vinny Riando. Come to Montreal, a place called Koki Muffler. Bet it costs you 1/3 that price, if not less. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'll do that. We'll find a place to take an ad out in exchange. What about putting Texia on the second line? He played really well with the first line a few months back. Because I don't think the reasoning of putting him up there is to bring some physicality. But he's a possibility, I guess. But that third line looks decent, so would it upset things if they, like, the third line's working, so, and the fourth line's working, so I'm not sure I change them up, really. Right? Similar players to Newhook. That line needs something different. Yeah. Kev McCart. Hughes is drafting stars and future NHL players in the second, third, and beyond. Better than most teams' first picks. Well, Hutson definitely. Ehlers, Cappy, Demi. Yeah. Ghost in the Ruins. Ghost in the Machine. Good album by the Police. How few mistakes Suzuki makes. Slav is making a few turnovers. Hutson one here and there. Same for Caulfield. Oh, Susie had it. You may have missed that one game where he's actually had a few games where he's had some turnovers of late. But yeah, it was notable because it's fairly rare. Suzuki Habs MVP by far. Well, I think so. I don't know about far, but MVP. Not flashy. Looks like he's doing nothing on the ice. Kucherov's pretty flashy. I don't know about that. Nick is a great captain. He leads by example, and his leadership is well beyond his years. Yes. Zook is our Iron Man. Great choice for captain in hindsight, eh? Yep. Wasn't really on board for Pacioretty as the captain. But Suzuki, yeah, I liked it. That was a good choice. Athletic put together any ranking articles. Yeah. Oh, they hire guys with high followers numbers, people with no journalism or scouting background, but you got lots of followers on Twitter. You got a job. I'll never be a Kucherov fan. Nope, me neither. Ideal Hage is ready. Imagine his speed, hands, and vision with someone like Demi. Let's all pray he's ready. Could make a huge difference. I think they're going to, hey, why not? They're going to plug him in. Again, they may not play the line. They'll protect the line a bit, and that's fine because they're all rookies. But get them out against other teams' third, fourth lines, 12, 13 minutes a game. Yeah, they could be scary. I don't know. Not sure how they did it with Suzuki. All right, folks. Well, we've got less than 20 people watching here. I don't suppose there's much use of dragging this on too long. The Kushkov. Who else? Somebody else got a suggestion? Maybe I'll do a Beck. Somebody suggested it the other day. Even though people are watching him, and I, don't always watch the guy focus right on one player, right? So maybe it's time to do an Owen Beck video. I haven't done one, I don't think, this year. So I'll do up Beck, see how he's looking, because he's might be the closest guy on the, closest forward to being ready that's on Laval. And I'll have a look at him, and I'll take another look at Jack Florian soon as well, and give you my opinions on how far off they are from playing with the Les Habitants. All right. I think I better pack it in here. Gotta take Chester for a walk. Maybe I need to watch him more, but I like the way William Trudeau plays. Oh, I've always liked Trudeau, but again, left defense, right? He's in tough. Captain material in the AHL team at the age of 26 type thing, right? I hope they can hang on to him, keep him in the org for a while, but he may have to move on to get a fair shot somewhere else down the road. Yeah, Trudeau's underrated. He really smart defenseman. Just not, the size skating combo is it's decent, but it's not good. He's undersized. He's an okay skater, but for his size, he's not. You have to almost be dynamic skater, and that's what's kind of holding them back. But okay, everyone. Yeah, Koivu. Yeah, no, he's not. He's not progressing a hell of a lot. By the way, Salavat won 1-0 today, so they tied up their series. Oh, they finally got that straightened out, because they had Zurowski playing 3:43 for the longest, and now it's saying 13:53. Okay. They won 1-0 today, so they evened up their best of 5, 1-1 against Yakat. Oh, I'll just say Avto. That's kind of how they're. But he played 18 minutes the first game of the playoffs, 13:58, so 14 minutes today. So down a little bit. No points so far in the playoffs, but they've evened up their playoff series at 1. So hopefully they can win a round or two. I'll try to catch some of the Laval game tonight, and maybe have it part of a report tomorrow. I don't know if Eric's joining me tomorrow. I hope so. I got to get in touch with him and maybe get him on. And I think Liam needs to do another show too. So we'll have something. I'll be doing something tomorrow. I'll try to get it at lunch again, even though the numbers weren't great. I'll probably do something lunchtime, or maybe this evening. Seem to be the 7-8 o'clock shows seem to do a lot better, right? And it makes sense, I guess. People that are working, right, can't get to see this game. Thanks, Paul, for the 10 spot. I'll put that in my muffler fund. What was the name of that muffler place again? Koki, did you say? Koki. All right. I'll see. I don't know if I want to drive down to Montreal to get my muffler fixed, but I might get in touch. I know a buddy. I have a buddy actually that has a muffler shop in Pembroke, so I'll probably confer with him first. Okay. No, I'm sure you weren't, Mark. Okay, everybody. Bye for now. Thanks for tuning in. Bruins Sabres tonight. Go Sabres, go. Absolutely. Have a great day, and hope to see you tomorrow.